We often assume that global superpowers are a strictly modern Western concept. But for thousands of years, the center of gravity for global wealth and knowledge remained in the East. The entire world looked to India. Over 5,000 years ago, humanity lived in scattered settlements, but the Indus Valley civilization operated complex, grid-based urban centers. Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa were feats of calculated engineering. They mastered early weapon forging, metallurgy, and subterranean drainage systems long before the rest of the globe. This vast river system gave the region its geographic identity. The name India is directly derived from the Indus River that sustained these early cities. Long before cartographers used that term, the cultural identity of this land was defined by ancient texts. In Jain and Hindu traditions, the region was known as Bharat, named after legendary early kings who first united the territory. So, how exactly did early river settlements evolve into a network of empires so dominant they were known as the Golden Bird? And more importantly, how did they manage to shape human history without relying on global conquest? Over the following centuries, a succession of massive dynasties, from the Mauryan and Gupta to the Cholas, Rajputs, and Marathas, expanded across the subcontinent. These empires prioritized the export of intellectual capital over territorial expansion through military force. They built the world's first true centers of higher education. Institutions like Taxila, Nalanda, and Vikramashila operated as massive international university campuses centuries before the concept existed elsewhere, drawing scholars from across the globe. Inside these walls, mathematicians like Aryabhata developed the principles of trigonometry and the concept of zero, the literal building blocks required for modern science. This mastery extended into human anatomy. Texts compiled by Acharya Sushruta documented hundreds of intricate surgical procedures, introducing the global medical community to concepts like reconstructive surgery long before the modern era. These empires realized that sustained power comes from holding the monopoly on human innovation. They effectively built the world's first knowledge-based economy. That intellectual foundation created an economic powerhouse. For much of recorded history, this region commanded such a massive share of global trade that it earned a specific title, the Golden Bird. The engine of this wealth was rooted in advanced agriculture and a near-total global monopoly on high-value commodities. By controlling the production and export of spices, India essentially dictated the terms of global trade routes. Instead of using this vast capital to fund foreign campaigns, it was reinvested domestically. The result was massive, highly intricate stone architecture and regional artistic traditions that stand as testaments to their sheer domestic wealth. This leads to a fascinating historical paradox. Despite possessing the immense wealth, logistics, and technology required to conquer neighboring lands, historical records show that India never initiated a first strike or military invasion on foreign soil. This deliberate policy of non-aggression was tied directly to the region's spiritual output. This geographic area served as the birthplace for four major world religions: Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism, all of which heavily emphasize principles of internal mastery and nonviolence. Pairing limitless wealth with a strict philosophy of peace created an incredibly prosperous society. But it also made the Golden Bird an irresistible target for empires that believed in taking power by force. The political landscape fractured in the 12th century. Waves of foreign campaigns, from the Tughlaqs and Lodis to the Mughals, swept across the subcontinent, eventually followed by 200 years of extraction under the British Empire. The scale of the extraction was staggering. Over centuries of systematic looting, foreign powers drained billions in physical treasure, raw materials, and agricultural output, slowly starving the once prosperous networks. But the occupying forces made a critical miscalculation. They successfully emptied the treasuries, but they couldn't uproot the underlying systems, the intellectual traditions, the diverse languages, and the cultural frameworks proved too deeply embedded to destroy. When a civilization's true value is encoded in its people and its philosophy rather than its gold, it can survive the total loss of its physical wealth. The foundations remained completely intact. That foundation was formally reclaimed in 1947. Emerging from 2 centuries of colonial rule, India drafted the largest written constitution in human history, laying a massive legal and political blueprint to rebuild the nation. What followed was a rapid economic recovery. A newly independent nation, almost entirely depleted of its physical capital, accelerated its growth to become the world's 5th largest economy, pushing past a $4 trillion GDP. The ancient focus on medicine and mathematics didn't disappear, it just evolved. Today, that exact same intellectual lineage drives India's position as a top-tier global producer of complex pharmaceuticals and information technology. And the ultimate proof of this unbroken scientific drive is happening right now in space. With highly efficient missions to Mars and the historic lunar landing of Chandrayaan-3, India's space agency is demonstrating a mastery of orbital mechanics that few nations can match. The centuries of foreign occupation represent a temporary interruption in a much longer timeline. Driven by its ancient DNA of deep knowledge and unbreakable resilience, the Golden Bird is claiming the future.